So let me make that really concrete. Let's say you're walking through the forest, you're having a good old time. You're going on a hike, and all of a sudden, oh crap, there's a bear and it's chasing after you. Zoom, you're right up here, and you go into fight or flight mode. So the first thing you might think is, you might have an impulse to go, okay, can I scream at the bear? Can I make myself big and make a lot of loud noises to try to scare the bear off? And then you try to do that for a second, and it is not doing anything to the bear. It's a grizzly. Oh my gosh, this thing doesn't care. I need to get out of here. So you first fight is your first attempt. Your second attempt is flight. So let's say now you're running, and you come up against like a cliff wall, and you go, oh my gosh, I'm at a dead end. The bear's still coming. I can't get away. And something in you might then shut down and go into freeze. You play dead, just like an animal would. These are the same animal mechanisms at work in your brain. So let's say you've had that experience where you had some kind of traumatic thing where you went into hyperarousal, then hypoarousal, and then you didn't really process it. You didn't get a chance to make sense of the experience. You just sort of, after the fact, were like, oh my gosh, well, I'm glad that's over, and you kind of move on with your life. What's going to happen? So let's say you're walking through the forest again someday, same stretch of forest, or maybe it's a different forest, but it looks somewhat similar. Well, something in your brain, as you get closer to here, is going to start to go, uh-oh, I know what this is. This is the place where the bear comes. This is the place where my life is in danger. And so what you're going to find is that instead of your sort of threshold for hyperarousal being up here, it's going to be down here. In other words, your window of tolerance gets smaller. It shrinks. The range of arousal within which you can integrate and make sense of your life and your experience has gotten less and less. And this is what we find with people who have experienced a lot of trauma or have post-traumatic stress disorder. There are the types of stimulus and experience that become overwhelming or difficult to integrate, difficult to make sense of. There's more and more things that you can't handle. There's more and more places and environments in which you aren't able to respond to your environment with consciousness or in the ways that you want to. So you find that maybe you're with your spouse and the situation comes up that you start to feel a way you felt in your past when you were in danger, and you start to feel hyper-aroused. You start to feel as if you're in danger, even though you might not be. You might trust your spouse, but you're finding now you're responding to your spouse as if they're a dangerous or unsafe person that you knew in the past. So the window of tolerance gets smaller. Going back to the brain, what we find with regard to trauma is over the course of time, if you've experienced a lot of trauma or if you've experienced a little bit of trauma, but it's significant, your hippocampus shrinks, your amygdala gets bigger. In other words, you're less likely to be able to do that integrating, dialoguing between parts of the brain work that you need to do in order to make sense of your life. Now, here's what's fascinating. Through the course of time, by talking through past experience of trauma and by working towards healing, you can actually increase the size of the hippocampus again. It can grow. There can be healing. The amygdala never gets smaller. So there is always, to some degree, an increased sensitivity, but there can be healing. In other words, your window of tolerance can grow again. How do you do that? Well, what we find is that the way you can grow your window of tolerance is by sort of hanging out at the edges. You move towards, but not too close, to the place that feels dangerous or unsafe, and you relearn how to process that so that you know freshly, oh, I know that I can handle this kind of experience. I don't need to be overwhelmed. I don't need to go into fight or flight because I know that I can handle this. And then your response to that kind of environment becomes less extreme.